Welcome in, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
This is Out of Order. We have changed our name. We decided that everything sucks. Let's fix it. A little clunky.
A little clunky. It was a good name. It gave the right, notion that we wanted to capture.
Yes.
But it's almost like a little too negative, I feel like.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we decided to shift it. We also just loved this.
Yeah.
When we talked about it.
We may or may not have been sitting here for an hour before recording.
Yeah.
About what our next name should be. That may or may not have been what was going on.
It's possible.
Possible.
It's possible. But we're still going to say this is episode 40 of this podcast. My name is Ben Mayer.
My name is Anthony Buono.
Today is April 10th, 2024. And we start with brand new news from today about the Arizona Supreme Court.
Yes. So the Arizona Supreme Court has revived a 1864 law restricting abortion access. This is now the most restrictive abortion law in the country. There is no exceptions for rape or incest or anything like that. There is a vague exception for the life of the mother, but as we have talked about incessantly on this show, that those type of abortion exceptions generally just make abortion impossible to get because no doctor wants to risk the liability of performing an abortion when someone else could argue that the mother's life was not truly in danger 100%.
And they could go to jail for doing so.
Lose their license, lose their livelihood. So what this does is it's going to restrict access to abortion across the entire state. But there is some caveat to that we'll get there. But why is this happening all of a sudden? Well, it's because Donald Trump's judicial appointments to the Supreme Court led to the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
And because of Donald Trump's actions as president, we are now seeing abortion restrictions pop up across the country, state by state, slowly falling like dominoes. And so with the overturning of Roe, a lot of states are reverting back to their pre-Roe legislative statutes.
Yes.
That's what's happening.
What's happened in Arizona, let's be very clear, is by far the extreme version of how this could go. But it does show what a post-Roe world does make possible.
Yes, exactly. And again, all this is possible because of the Republican judicial nominees to the federal bench. Now, let's talk about the Arizona Supreme Court specifically. So the Arizona Supreme Court is made up entirely of conservative appointees. All of them have been appointed by Republican governors in the past. I believe five of them, have been appointed by Doug Ducey, the previous governor. He was the previous Republican governor. Now, Doug Ducey came out to make a statement on this, and he's saying how he disagrees with the entire Supreme Court decision. He says that I signed a 15-week law as governor because it is thoughtful, conservative policy. The ruling today is not the outcome I would have preferred, and I call on our elected leaders to heed the will of the people and address this issue with a policy that is workable and reflective of our electorate. What this is doing right now, what's going on, is the dog has finally caught the car, and they have no idea what to do with it. Because Doug Ducey appointed all these people. It's their guys.
Sure. But I don't know. I'm not as hard on him as this. Because, again, I want to give some credit to the courts and what the courts are supposed to be there for, which is just to interpret the laws. I do think that this is going to be that the Arizona legislature is going to quickly respond to the ruling with new legislation.
Well, the Arizona House recently upheld the 1864 law.
Right.
Yeah.
Earlier today.
Yes, later today, all elected Republicans in the Arizona House have upheld the 1864 law and are sticking with that being the law of the state.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like the evangelist wing getting away from the political leadership that's like, we need your votes, but we still need to win elections.
Well, that's what's happening right now across the country, right? We see Donald Trump. He has to give out a statement on abortion, and he makes it very clear. He's like, guys, I'm going to make a statement about my abortion position. And he goes on the record. He says, I will not pass a nationwide abortion ban. But in the same breath he says how happy he is that he was the one who overturned Roe v. Wade, and that he wants it to be a states' rights issue. Now, Joe Biden claps back pretty quick, and he's like, it's not a states' rights issue. It's a woman's health issue. And, if you're going to be not pro a national abortion ban, but you're going to be okay with these crazy laws from the 19th century popping up across the country.
Yeah.
You can't really hide behind the fact that it's a states' rights issue. You can't really hide behind that.
Exactly. Because then you're allowing the states to go too far with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that's Doug Ducey, right? Doug Ducey's saying he wants something different. Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake is one of the furthest right people running for Congress anywhere in the country. She's running for Senate in Arizona. Yep. Big election denier. She has still refused to concede the governor election from 2022.
Yeah.
But she has said that now she puts out a statement saying, she says, I oppose today's ruling, and I am calling on Katie Hobbs and the state legislature to come up with an immediate common sense solution that Arizonans can support. 2 years ago, she was not saying all this negative things about the 1864 law.
Yeah.
She was very happy that Roe v. Wade got overturned, and she was very happy about this law coming back into fruition.
I must say, I'm getting more and more cynical about anything that politicians do and say now that we are in such an election year that we are. Right? Like Carrie Lake, this is a clear political maneuver, clearly trying to move herself to the center to appear more palatable to independents and voters who might lean more towards the left. You can't trust it because it is just a play for the votes.
Yeah,
right?
Anything that a politician is saying to you during an election year, you got to be careful with it.
Yeah.
And that goes for Biden too.
Oh,
right?
yeah, which we will bring up later.
Yes, we will bring up that. We will bring up that. So this is where the Republicans are in Arizona. I think what this does politically, I think Joe Biden wins Arizona in 2024 almost guaranteed.
Yes.
I think,
if you combine it with, if you want to just roll right into our next.
So we're going to do there's one more thing I got to say about the Arizona law.
Okay.
So this is why elections matter, guys. Because even though the 1864 law in Arizona is the law of the land, the Democratic Attorney General, Chris Mays, has said she will not be enforcing the court's decision. And why is she in this position? Because she won her election in 2022 by 300 votes.
Wow.
With 300 votes, she is going to be able to protect abortion access in Arizona as much as it is possible for the Attorney General to do.
That is insane.
And because of that, the Arizona and the women of Arizona and the people who can give birth in Arizona live to fight another day with their right to reproductive health care. And so it just goes to show you how important these elections really are, man. 300 votes is crazy.
Yeah.
We're talking 1,254,809 to 1,254,529 votes.
280 votes. Mostly it just emphasizes how much it matters to vote in a swing state, right? If you're in Arizona, if you're in Nevada, if you're in Wisconsin, if you're in Pennsylvania, it's
vital.
Enormous. Yeah.
It's enormously vital. So now this leads us to our next point. Democrats are doing their best to put abortion rights on the ballot across swing states throughout the United States.
Arizona being one of them.
Exactly. And this is kind of a play off what George W. Bush did back in 2004. So let's start there and then then we can talk about each state.
Sure.
So in 2004, Bush did something similar. Republicans put gay marriage on the ballot in 11 states during the 2004 presidential election. And this is at a time when gay marriage was not popular. We take that for granted nowadays, but 2 decades ago, gay marriage was actually something that was a motivator in the opposite direction of what we normally think about the popular position.
Crazy that was only 2 decades.
I know. The world changes fast, right?
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. The fact that was only 2 decades ago, and they were saying, they were thinking that defending the rights, attacking the rights of gay people to get married was a political winner.
Yeah.
Right? Crazy how it switches like that. But some political scientists have suggested that the ballot referendums brought out more social conservatives that would have normally showed up to vote. Democrats are hoping to do the same thing with progressives. Now, I know that you've done... it's all murky.
Yes, there have been a lot of studies done to try to tease out the effects of the abortion or of the gay marriage ballot initiatives and whether they actually did anything for turnout of voters, specifically in swing states or in all of the states that the initiatives were run in, as well as whether they actually made more people vote for Bush. And at least the study I read, it emphasized that the results are super murky, that at the county level or at the state level, it's not clear. But the one study I did read says no turnout effects were seen, but more people were seen to have voted for Bush where there was gay marriage on the ballot. So it almost seems like it's more likely for people to vote for the partisan side of the ballot initiative and the same presidential candidate.
Yeah.
At least based on this one example that we have historically.
Right. And what I think the larger notion here is Democrats feel like they're in trouble. It's going to be hard for them to keep the Senate.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, whether we like it or not, is in a tight re-election campaign. Anything helps. Like, this doesn't hurt him.
No,
right?
Of course, no,
right.
It can't possibly hurt.
This can't possibly hurt. This is just another thing that adds to the possibility that makes Joe Biden more likely to win, or makes Ruben Gallego, let's start with Arizona, makes Ruben Gallego most likely to win. So the main thing that's so important is that Arizona has a very tight Senate race between Kari Lake and Ruben Gallego. If the Democrats want to keep the Senate, they have to win in Arizona. There's no doubt about that. They have to win everywhere, but most specifically, if you're not winning Arizona, you're not keeping the Senate. So with that, their plan is to put up an abortion referendum to the state constitution and increase turnout to Ruben Gallego, and then also possibly increase turnout, possibly win persuasive voters, and then also be able to paint Kari Lake as the anti-abortion candidate. They're going to really make her run on the opposite side of this referendum. And that's what they're going to do across these states. The other one I want to talk about, so specifically, is Florida.
Yeah.
Now, Florida, there was a state Supreme Court decision on April 1st that ruled that a ballot measure to legalize abortion until viability could go on the ballot. This was despite a legal challenge from the Attorney General, who argued that there are differing views on the meaning of quote-unquote viability, which I don't like. I think that's not like the worst argument against the language. But the point is, it's going on the ballot. And this is important because Florida now has a 6-week abortion ban in effect. So you can't get abortions post 6 weeks in Florida for almost any reason.
Yeah.
This is a terrible piece of policy. Most women don't know they're pregnant until after 6 weeks. It's only 2 weeks after missing your period. It's a whole thing. But what this is good for Democrats in why this is good for Democrats in Florida is Democrats in Florida have been struggling at the statewide level.
Oh, yeah. They've been destroyed.
Destroyed. I mean, they've been decimated.
Yeah. Florida used to be the swing state. It is now pretty solidly red. I think there are more than 900,000 more Republicans registered in the state of Florida than Democrats.
And that's crazy because that's not how it used to be. It used to be a 300,000 vote advantage for the Democrats.
Yeah. Well, a big thing has just been the demographics have changed.
Yeah.
Republicans have purposely moved into Florida. Florida has become a bastion of conservatism. They see it as a safe haven.
It's a retirement community.
Yeah,
now,
totally.
In a lot of ways. It's an aging state too.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is playing it into Republican hands. So what Democrats need to do is they need to stay alive there. I don't know. This isn't going to be important for the Democrats to win Florida in the Senate level or Joe Biden to win Florida. That's not what this is for. It's to keep the party alive there. It's to make sure that the Florida Democrats get good turnout at the county elections.
Yeah.
Right?
And that people are still inspired enough to run, to have decent candidates to actually put up there.
And why this can help Democrats is even though Florida won by 20-something points in the 2022 midterms, maybe 19 points he won by.
Yeah.
The state is a pro-choice state. 56% of people, this is from Gallup, 56% of people in Florida say that it should be legal in most or all cases. 39 say it should be legal in illegal in most or all cases. So this is a pro-choice state.
Yeah.
There's definitely a way for this amendment to pass. It's not likely because the amendment does need to receive 60% of the vote. This is a way to make amendments to the Florida Constitution. It needs to pass by 60%, not 50%. But what it can do is boost Democratic turnout, which can be important to keep the party apparatus alive.
Yeah.
That's the real goal here. It's just to make sure that they don't sink further and further into irrelevancy.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, if you're listening to this and you're in Florida, know that your votes on this ballot initiative specifically matter enormously. 56%, that is really close to the 60% number. Every bit of turnout that you get for pro-choice is going to be instrumental in enabling greater access to women's health care.
And I can tell you, trying to convince somebody to vote for a politician can be difficult because every politician's got bones in their closet. Every politician has things that you got to defend if you're trying to get them elected. That it's hard to do. But when it comes down to the actual issue and you have the opportunity to vote on the issue itself, please take advantage of that.
Totally.
If you know that this is what the policy you want to see implemented, you have the option to vote specifically for that policy. And you should be happy that we live in a country that allows you to do that and take advantage of it when you can, because it doesn't happen all the time.
Totally.
It does not happen all the time. So with this, finally, to cap off Florida, can Biden win Florida? Almost certainly not. Democrats have a lot of work to do if they want to win Florida going into the next decade. What makes me nervous is there are reports that Joe Biden is spending money in Florida, which, stop it.
I'm not really concerned because specifically they said something like the $30 million that Biden has allocated for swing states is part of it is going to be invested in Florida. And I think they were vague on that purposely to try to maybe scare the Trump campaign into spending a little bit more in Florida. I don't expect so Biden has a new abortion ad out, which we have talked about already, which is a hard hitter. And I think one of the examples was this ad is going to be shown online, but not in any of the TV markets in Florida.
Oh, okay.
So they are saving their dollars.
They're saving their dollars. Okay, that's good. That's good. So that's what's going on in Florida. The next one up is Maryland. So Maryland, why would we even be talking about Maryland? Maryland is a safe Democratic state. It shouldn't matter what's on the ballot. Well, it kind of does, because there is a Senate race going on in Maryland where the ex-Republican governor, Larry Hogan, who has ran as a moderate Republican in the past and has been successful in winning in the state of Maryland statewide, is now running for an open Senate seat. And the polling right now has Larry Hogan up by 4 points. This is a Republican leading a Democrat in a safe blue state. If Democrats want to keep the Senate, you got to win Maryland, guys. Yeah. So what this hopefully will do, when abortion gets on the ballot in Maryland, is push the Democrat over the edge above the moderate Republican, tie Larry Hogan to this abortion referendum, and kind of paint him as much as of an extremist as they can. Obviously, that's a little disingenuous because Larry Hogan is not an extremist.
Yeah, he'll probably be towing the abortion up to the state's line.
Yeah.
So
he's got no choice. But that's what that's going to be. And I think it's important that obviously Larry Hogan is defeated. I think these polling numbers will shift as time goes on. When more people hear the names of the Democrats that are going to be on the ballot. Like I'm sure a lot of this has to do with name ID, and everyone knows who their last governor was. Yeah. Right. On top of that, we're going to have abortion access on the ballot in Montana, which is where John Tester is versing Tim Sheehy. And this is like the most pivotal swing state in the Senate elections. John Tester is going to be the most tightest election other than Sherrod Brown in Ohio. This is where the battleground of the Senate is going to be. Yep. So anything that the Democrats can do to put more teeth behind John Tester's campaign is going to be for the better. And then lastly, Nevada. There's an important presidential and obviously an important Senate race in there. Again, same story as everything else. This is just a way that the Democrats are going to try their best of tying Republicans to abortion across the country and then making them look like the extremists that they are on the women's rights issues.
Yeah, I'm going to be so interested after the election to see the studies that come out and
Me too.
Whether they decide that this was really impactful.
Yeah. I am really excited to see that because I love the strategy. I love the idea of what the strategy means philosophically, right? Yeah. Because it means like, how are you getting people out to the polls? You're not bullshitting around. You're not like you're not spending a ton of money. What are you doing? You are finding an issue people really care about and giving them a choice on it.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're going to have to obviously spend to try to convince people not only to come out to the polls, but also to vote on the referendums. But there's also an organic component of people will be drawn to it on their own.
Yes, I totally agree.